Okay. Well, the first thing I would like you to talk about is, well, now we are beginning a new year, and maybe it's a good time to look back to 2021 and see
Okay.
what has been how the year has been, how the year went for the network, for TBWA. What were the highlights and the lowlights or the not so good things?
Yeah.
In general, how do you think the company fared last year? What's your resume, your balance about the deployment of the company last year?
Okay. Well, I mean, for us, it was a stellar year. We had a very, very good year. It was actually the biggest year in our company's history. So it was really significant growth, and it was significant growth over 19 as well. So it wasn't just recovery, in sort of from 2020, in terms of, where that was. It was even over 19, which was, if you want to kind of call it a normal year. So so a lot of, really some fantastic wins and great ones around the world there. And the growth happened in many markets around the world, which was great. It wasn't just a US out. And that's part of what I love about the company and why I joined it is, being Australian, I'm sort of used to coming from a melting pot. We're sort of a country born of many identities. And that's what this company is. It started with four different partners from four different nationalities or four different disciplines. And I think, we're very much about the world in. And I think, in this era, when you're disconnected, it really, those who have performed well are those who are the most connected. While we might be disconnected physically, those who have been really connected culturally and obviously through the platforms, etc., and going into it, who are very connected, we've been able to really share and help each other a lot. And that's why the success has come as a result of that. And look, we were very strong coming into the COVID era. We had many good years. We've been Global Agency of the Year, coming into that as well. And one of the most innovative companies in the world. So we were in really good shape. And I think those who were probably the fittest coming into this also came out stronger. And those who also innovated during that time were able to sort of accelerate away from the competitive set. And we have the mantra of always in beta in our company. And I love that. And I do love innovation. And sometimes maybe I innovate too much, Manuel. I mean, maybe I'm spinning too many plates. But I don't. I really do believe that if you're not innovating, you're not getting to your future faster. And so for us, I think we sort of adopted a mindset during COVID and even last year, because it was the second year of this, which was we need to move from navigation to innovation. That's got to be like we got to stop sort of how we're going to work and what's the process going to be and how do we use this to really accelerate the way in which we work and the way in which we could come with solutions to our clients, and do that in a really compelling collective manner, and then let's get the results of that. And I think that's what we saw. We innovated on our probably our oldest platform, which is disruption, the thing that we love the most, the thing that we're known for. We did a huge amount of work against that. We changed the whole basis of it. I think it was. I think it probably cements why we've performed well and maybe why other advertising agencies are a little in neutral or in reverse. And I think that's because a lot of advertising agencies just work from the principle of trying to help communication, just to help the advertising. And disruption was always meant to be about how do we drive the business, how do we identify the white space for growth. And so we really went about trying to impact the total experience, and we launched Disruption X. We trained the whole company again. So, we got 11,000 people in this company. Retrained everyone over that period in the first quarter of this year. And we saw the results. Our clients think that we're better business partners to them. They trust us more. They consolidate with us. We didn't lose one top 20 client globally at all, which is pretty amazing in this day and era. And more importantly, we grew with them. There was more that was given to us as we started to impact the total brand experience. There was more opportunity to consolidate, integrate, and apply innovation in more ways. And so it sounds like a pretty strong advertisement for TBWA coming from me. And obviously I'm proud of the results, but it's fact. And, I have this story, if you don't mind. It's kind of a funny joke between two planners at our company, because every time I use this statistic from one of the planners, the other planner has to do a shot. It's uncomfortable for one of the planners, but from our standpoint, the World Economic Forum did a study a long time ago about cities that were impacted by an environmental event, a catastrophe of some sort, and a hurricane, an earthquake, whatever. And they found that those cities that rebuilt themselves in the same way were less able to recover quickly than those that rebuilt in the new. And those that rebuilt in the new were able to get to growth and numbers that were 27% higher than those that had rebuilt in the same. And so, we've gone through a lot these last 2 years, a lot of us, and some things have changed forever inside of this. And so you have to look at these last 2 years and even where we still are today as an opportunity to innovate and to change and to get to your new place where you want to be as a company, and to really use it as a springboard to get to the next chapter. And I think that that's what we've done really successfully. That's why we've grown. We really took that stack 2 years ago. We applied it across many things. There's this great platform, which we can talk about, called Next at some point, looking at the things that are really going to impact communications and marketing and behavior in the next 3 years. And to me, it's that ongoing thirst for innovation, the desire to change, to apply it, and then to drive it through our community that we've got here in this great company. And we're inspired by everyone inside of our company. It's innovation doesn't come from New York. We're not New York out. It's definitely the world in. And I think we create a lot of positive envy in our company, a lot of it. And when we see one market doing great things, the other market, oh boy, I wish I was doing that, and then they start doing it. So I think we got a good vibe going.
Okay. Any particular milestones that you should like to mention or last year?
Yeah, in terms of, obviously the accolade of Agency of the Year, we were Global Agency of the Year again, which is pretty amazing, for Adweek. There haven't been many repeats lately. I think it's probably like us and Wyden are the two that sort of get in that realm. And so for, a lot of agencies are, being talked about as, the multinationals are too slow and they're not changing. For us to still be one of the most innovative companies in the world, which we got again last year, those accolades, we love to see. And because we do think we're the best network in the world. We do. We don't fear anyone in that case. We come up against the consultants a lot, in pitches. I've lost once to a consultant, so we don't fear them. Who we really fear is ourselves. We fear that, are we able to get to the ideas that we have, which most agencies are really good at? Are we able to operationalize them? Are we able to find the talent and get to that new place? And, we got down to new business. We won 5 out of every 6 pitches we did last year. We keep track of all of that. So we've been selective and where we put our efforts in new business with the clients that we want to partner with. Not losing one top 20 client, I think is pretty amazing. Winning 5 out of 6 is good. Getting the accolades, they're all good. And then on the people front, I think we did a great job on diversity. We're nowhere near complete on that task. But certainly, which was a big cultural, sort of moments over the last 2 years. Particularly in America, I would say more than anywhere, but certainly in many other markets around the world, we've been able to start to, attract different talents and talents that represent the populations of the countries that we live in. So we've made a big conscientious effort against that. And I feel like we've made progress. Do I feel like there's room to go? Always. Always room to go, and always room to improve. And I would say creatively, we had, we got the feedback when we put our reels together that our global reel and our US reel were by far the best, versus everybody else there. But I would say that we're the best of good right now when it comes to creatively. And I think creatively, I'm really eager for this year. I think this is going to be the year that creativity comes back. I really do believe. I think it has to, because there's a sea of sameness out there right now. There's not a lot of breakthrough, and I just feel like when you feel that way, then something happens. And what we're trying to really get is our group to be able to say, let's take this opportunity. Let's get to some real iconic changes in communication here, some innovation, and start to see that new chapter of creativity. Because I can't say for the industry that it was a stellar year creatively. I think it was a good year. And so I'm really eager to see that. I'm eager to see more changes on the diversity front. I'm eager to see our reputation as an industry change and people stop talking about. I read your article on consultants, by the way, very good.
Thank you.
But I mean, to me, I think there's a lot of fascination with everybody else, and I'm not quite sure why people don't believe that advertising agencies can't succeed. And I think we're living proof of it. We've had 6 out of 7 years we've grown. The only year we didn't was obviously it was 20 when everyone else was having a tough year with COVID. But we've grown 6 out of 7 years. There's not an issue with growing. There isn't. It's an issue of bad agencies going out of business or struggling, bad leadership not getting the results that they ultimately deserve. So I think it's a case of if you get the right group of leaders together, you innovate as much as you can 100% grow in this industry. And I think the one thing is that I just think the industry needs to step out of just being seen as an advertising industry, a communication industry, and get back to being the business partner that I certainly felt like I was when I was growing up in this industry. And to do that, then you've got to have some rigor and some intelligence. And you got to apply data, which we've done really well with some of those appointments. And your level of analysis, you got to upload, in terms of talent, in terms of the strategists coming into your organization and really invest into that. And we've done that. We've increased strategy across the globe. The number of people in strategy has grown 34% in the last 3 years of that company. That's pretty sizable, right? So I think you kind of got to put your money, if you want change, then drive change, identify the people, put the visible people in place to do it, get your methodologies going, and then be confident. Get out there and grow. And I think this collective has shown we're capable of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're very much looking forward to the new year. Do you think it's going to be a good one?
Yeah, right now it's forecast to be our second best year in the company's history. So, off the back of the biggest one, I think that's pretty good. Now, things can change. There could be a new variant that comes along. Anything could happen along the way here. We do know that. But the way it's looking right now, it's looking really positive for our collective, really positive. And my energy, which you can tell is always high, and I'm a very optimistic human being. I believe our best days are still ahead of us. We've got a lot of restlessness inside the group. We just brought in a new creative leader, for the company, in Ben Williams, who's joining us, and he's there to help really drive us into new areas and to really broaden out our experience. So I'm eager to kind of see where that can take us. Our next platform on innovation is really identifying some really fascinating places for us to be able to, take our clients' brands and expand their experience as well. So there's so much opportunity out there. There is just so much. It's just that we tend to want to talk about the hole in the bucket rather than, really looking about what the opportunity can be. And I think there's plenty out there for all of us.
Okay. Well, now we are waiting for the full year results of the Omnicom and the rest. Omnicom, which is the owner of TBWA, of course, and the rest of the holding companies. But the results so far from the first 3 quarters have been quite good, really, for Omnicom, of course, but for the rest of the competition too. Did you expect such an amount of recovery that the industry is going to rebound in such a positive and a strong way?
Yeah, I do. I think I think we saw a big shift with our clients when COVID happened, and the shut that we all went, to work from home. And, there was obviously it's like, okay, well, how is this going to work? How am I going to be able to handle, the ways in which I now have to connect with consumers much more, create different experiences? My business is threatened in terms of how am I going to get the distribution of my product and how am I going to get it into people's homes, etc. That I think that they really leaned on their agency partners and client partners there to be able to really help drive their business much more than we'd felt. I felt like in some ways a lot of companies in our industry had gotten themselves into simply a reactive mode. And in many ways, I think that there was more proactivity coming from agency holding companies and partners. There were more solutions and innovations that they could bring that maybe in some ways they were holding back or were adopting too much of a service mentality. And then I think, by and large, I think the clients really needed us because they were under tremendous pressure. And I think the difference between us and I think people like consultants is we get things done. We're very good at problem solving. We sort of adapt or realize the opportunity. We see something, we're there to solve it, and we get it done quickly. We turn it into action. And I think, with some of the other groups and competitors out there, they, it tends to, there's a lot of, deck fatigue that would go on, and maybe not as much closing of the loop. And I think our clients saw that. So I think the rebound was good. I think, look, the impact was pretty significant too, right? I mean, we saw obviously like experiential, events, all those. I mean, they really collapsed on that side. We've seen that really roll back for us. And so, the digital evolution that's taken place, the analytical side, the media side, there's so much that clients are counting on us to be able to sort it through for them. And you think about all the platforms, Manuel, that have been launched over the last 5 years alone, but also even in this chapter, the last 2 years, and the role of, influencers and everything else that's gone on there. It's really tough being a client today. Their marketing departments are not getting bigger. They're not. I mean, they're, inside of their client environments. I feel for our marketing partners out there, because I do feel as though they're shorthand in terms of people and talent that they've got. They've got issues in terms of the multiplicity of things that they have to manage now, the stakeholders inside of their companies that they've got to navigate through. Whether it's a CIO now, whether it's obviously other elements in terms of their insight group or whatever else there. So I do feel as though that they count on someone that can really help them bring this all together. And a lot of the pitches that we saw during last year in particular were all about, can you help me simplify this? Can you help make sense of this much more? And so I think our clients leant back on the holding companies a lot. You saw more holding company pitches during last year, like Omnicom, obviously winning Mercedes is a big one that you saw. We won Philips last year as well. Those types of things. I mean, a lot of those briefs are help us pull this together, help us simplify this. How do we get to some sort of one common methodology, one platform, etc. So I think it was an indication of how much clients do really value good partners for them, and those that continue to evolve and bring them, much more proactivity and rigor.
Mm-hmm. So Matt has talked about the death of advertising industry not being in a good shape, but being a thing of the past. It looks like the death is very much alive, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I really struggle with people on this front, Manuel. I just do. I mean, it's just fact. I mean, 6 out of 7 years we've grown here. I just don't understand why. I mean, good, if they want to concentrate on the demise, then they can look at themselves. I'm looking out and going for opportunities. And, we employed, almost 1,000 more people into our company last year. Beyond, not replacing the ones. We're talking about growth, right? Mm. So, we're trying to look for new talents and new people. And so, in South Africa, they have this great phrase, which is either you're a sunrise or a sunset. And, we're very much a sunrise culture. I mean, we are very much about positivity. Our belief is that proactivity is the only viable business model going forward. I believe in controlling your own destiny. I just do. And I think but to do that, you've got to have a strong point of view. It needs to be informed. So you really do have to have some rigor. And then, why do you want to sit back and be in the service culture? Because service culture is just going to get procured to death. I think in this situation, agencies and alike need to be able to have a point of view about what they believe they could help someone with, a solution that they've got, and obviously a much more proactive approach to pricing. And I think that's all within our control, all of that. No one's telling you not to do that. Some clients may say, look, can you stop, whatever else, but come on. I mean, if you want to be successful, it's not, you can't do that by waiting by the phone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Talking about the clients, business-wise, in terms of how they envisage the new year, in terms of their own business, what attitude are you detecting? Whether how are they feeling positive? Are they optimists? Are eager to go on to do new things, or they're more cautious? How do you see them?
I find, if I'm being frank, I find a lot of clients overwhelmed. I mean, right now with the multitude of tasks that they've got to do, and that's why they do turn to sort of look for people who can help simplify that and partner with them to get those solutions. I mean, if you think about October last year, right, not that long ago, right, where was the word metaverse then at that stage? And, you know, you just add another thing on top of another thing on top of another thing for them. And NFTs and everything else, where you start to sort of, you know, the amount of people who'd be saying, well, what are we doing for NFTs inside of their company that's starting? And like they're scrambling and trying to figure out what their answers are on that front, or what we're going to do in the metaverse or whatever else. So I have a lot of sympathy for them, because I feel like, you know, the fragmentation continues. You know, the question marks around the efficacy of a lot of them, you know, also continues. And so they're having to work out, like, yeah, do I need to be there? Should I be experimenting? What kind of return am I going to get? There's so much data flying around. The question is, what's useful? And how do I actually get to a common place where all of this data can come together? And someone please make sense of all of that for me, because I've got this person over here and this board member over here and this whatever else. And so I have tremendous sympathy for clients. I just do, because I think it's a really difficult task. And I think that a lot of agencies, you know, if I'm being frank, have been too arrogant in the past and really not partnering with them. You know, I find that when you go through the creative process with clients, we spend, you know, whatever period of time, you know, developing the work, and we have, you know, multiple conversations internally before we go show it to a client. And then we go show it to a client, we sit across the table for them, we present it to them, and then we can't believe that they can't give us an answer inside of 2 minutes, you know, in that room, and that they, you know, they're supposed to know immediately, but yet we took all that time to kind of get to that place. And I think it's unrealistic. I think it's just like, you know, I mean, how, you know, I think the best way to be is, if you really want to be a partner, then really partner with them, like bring them in much more into the process, make it much more inclusive, be a little bit more empathetic, and be proactive to them, and really try to help make sense of all this. Not just always try to be opportunistic or believe that you're entitled, or quite frankly, to be arrogant. You know, I think it's good to be confident, but I do think it's, you know, I think right now I would say a lot of clients are feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I think, you know, obviously there's a lot of change that's gone on. Like, if you think, would I have said in October, November that the experience business was coming back? Yeah, there was lots of signs of that. You could see that. Then, yeah, then obviously the next wave comes along, November, December. So then the first 2 months of experience start to change. So it's just, you know, there's going to be this level of fluidity. The good thing is, I think none of us are surprised by this now. So, you know, the best companies should be able to adapt to those moments. But I think for a client, yeah, it's a very fluid situation, and I understand why they're cautious about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we were talking a little bit before commencing the interview about back to the office or going back to a new normal, or whatever we might call it. What are the plans of the network of TBWA? Let's imagine things get more or less normal. Which is a plan? What changes are you going to introduce in the way that people work, and the flexibility, times at the office or not? What's the idea of the network about this issue?
Well, I mean, we're never going back to the way it was. Let's be frank, and that's not a bad thing. It really isn't. I do think we need to still come together. I really do. I believe that we are an industry that is better when we're in the room together, when we're bouncing ideas off each other, where we're able to really collaborate and get different points of view that make the work better. And I think that maybe that's the reason why I think creative work as a whole for the last 2 years has been solid, not spectacular. And because it's not a production issue with the work, right? It's not. We've shown that we can produce anything in that time frame. So it's really going to be a question of, okay, well, what's changed about that? So I do think that we do need to come together in order for the work to elevate, to get to the next standard. How often will that be? Well, I think realistically, it's going to be like 3-4 days a week. I think we'll always have days now where people will work remotely, where people will, will justifiably work out that, task-wise, it's going to be best to work from home today because I've got 11 calls in a row and there's no team meetings to do that, or I need actual think time where I've got to really come up with a strong point of view about this. And so we will definitely be a much more flexible culture in that way. So do I think we'll be back to 5 days a week? I think for some people, yes. That some people we've seen in some markets, If you go to Asia, who obviously have had different waves of coming back, there are a lot of those markets that want to be back in 5 days a week. Right? They just did. Australia, we found a lot of that as well, and then sort of retreats to 4 days. So you see a lot of back and forth there. Yeah. Some of the markets where there's public transport issues, like New York or London or whatever else, I think you're going to find a little bit of finding our feet there and a rhythm there, and it's probably 3 days a week, something like that. That we'll see there. Mm. But what's also happened, which I think is powerful, is that this medium, you and I here, we're able to talk. We have no issue with this. We're able to get along and converse and get to a strong point of view about something that certainly offshoring is accelerated. Working as a collective, which is what we chose to do a while back, like stopping the network language, which was very much office to office. And we want to be much more about people to people, that you really can work with people in different geographies and that you're able to do that rather seamlessly. And so I do think that that's opened up much more of a global workforce, for our clients, that they don't all have to be in the office. And I think clients have changed their point of view about that. I can't tell you in the past how many times I was in the pictures like, I need to meet the team that's going to work on my business, and that, they need to be in the room. Yeah. It's like, that's an irrelevant question now. It really is. Like, show me the best in class people that you can bring to the table that's going to move my business forward. That's a better question. Now, the fact is, they're in Costa Rica, they're in India, they're here, whatever. Who cares? We know that that's, whatever we thought in the past that, they wouldn't work or whatever else, the quality of them. I don't think that that's up for debate anymore. So I think, the openness now to be able to leverage other skills in other markets is definitely there. And that's inside of my company as well as for our clients as well. So I think those things have changed for sure. And then I think, I think the world is a little bit more world in now versus sort of, always about like the hubs and really looking for innovation to spark from anywhere, because I think we've seen many businesses have started from scratch and gone very quickly to a sizable business. And so you have to be willing to sort of look for innovations coming from different markets. And, I really do believe, Manuel, like a lot of Asia is going to drive a lot of innovation in the next 2-3 years. I mean, they're the ones with the behavior and the desire to move quickly. So the Silicon Valleys, but Asia, I think, is going to drive a lot of that innovation, and we're going to see proof of concept there much more as a body of evidence there. Yeah, you're going to see that, and I'm excited about that because that will affect all of us, and then we'll be able to drive that through different geographies around the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, your answer to these questions has a lot to do, I think, with the next one, which is we've been 2 years now with this situation, with this very extraordinary situation that the pandemic has brought about. Personally, for you as a CEO of a multinational company with thousands of employees around the world, what has been the lessons for you as a man who is at the top of this big company with lots of people? What have you learned in this particular situation?
Oh, many things, to be honest with you. I think it's okay to be vulnerable as a leader. I think it's important to be authentic. To say that you're struggling, it's okay to say that. I mean, I've definitely had periods where it was overwhelming, particularly in the first year of it. It was hard, really hard. And I think being able to not try to be the perfect leader, I think has been something that has certainly for me been a case where I've certainly opened up about this, the struggles that we all have, the stress, the motivation, the fact that I've been moving since I was 22 years old. I've been somewhere in the world and jumping on a plane and doing whatever else. To be in the same living room for large periods of time, it's been difficult to manage your energy and your motivation. And so, so I think the importance of bringing in other people that can lift your spirits and to lift your energy and to get your motivation to happen. So, we've had many more of our executives get coaching during that period. We've had motivational speakers come into our agencies a lot, in order to sort of lift that. And I think it's also important to have transparency inside of the system. So, we have these, tools like Pulse, and where basically we get the employee sentiment, like how are you feeling this week? good, bad. Let's talk about it. Let's get very open about it. So I think really understanding where emotional well-being has probably been more of a priority than it has been in the past inside of our company. We talk a lot about the outcome. Well, a lot of it is really about the input right now. It's our people. And, it's an area that's still got a lot of work to do, if we're being frank. I think that well-being and employee experience is going to be probably the biggest challenge we have going forward, because it's been tiring. I mean, it's been, a real tax on everyone. And so where are we on mental health? And we've got a number of initiatives that we've got across the globe here where we're really working hard to make sure we've got a much better, healthier employee experience. And that takes a conscientious effort on that front. So I think that's certainly been, one part of it. I think the second part is, how do you recruit in this day and age? Which is, we've seen a missing population, go on during this period. And it's not just our industry, it's every industry. People have chosen that they're going to adopt a different life. And so how do you recruit during this period of time? And what is your future then as a company, and why it's important to have a very strong point of view about it and a very active role in recruiting people. And so, we saw at different times during this pandemic, employee churn, reaching record levels that we'd ever had. Now, it's sort of settled back, but, at different times, there was certainly that going on. So that puts a tax on a lot of people. And so, we really had to make sure we were doubling down on and really overcoming some of the preconceived notions that we've had at holding companies or at multinationals of, employee overhead cost. Like recruiting is a really healthy thing to have inside of your company. Turnover is not a bad thing to have inside of your company because you can always bring in new talent and new skills, but you've got to make investments there. And in the past, I think people were like, yeah, but, having costs, and human resources, is that really like, that's sort of non-working capital. Well, actually, the most important capital we have are our people, and we're not investing enough into them. So either training or recruitment or whatever else. And so just breaking down some of those notions, I think has been important. And then, I would say that, also trying to make sure we get people to be accountable for their actions while we know that they're going through stress. I mean, we still have a business to drive here. We have a huge responsibility. And, I'm often reminded about the fact that it isn't just, it's not just the person I'm talking to, and the people that work for them. There are husbands and wives and children, and there's a bigger economy that's attached to that responsibility. And so, getting people to understand why it's important to perform, why it's important to drive change, why it's important to have a future, is because there's a much bigger world that we're accountable to than just the day-to-day world that we see in front of us or over the screen. And so, driving change when we're uncertain about what's going on, you really have to hold people accountable to that still. And we made some excuse me, 1 second. We had to make some tough calls during that time. We had to let some people go, and even in an economic downturn there, and that's not easy. Having to do that, you really wrestle with that as a leader, and you find it hard. But you have to remind yourself again. Your clients have that. They've got their families and everything else. We've got our people and their families and everything else, and so it's a big responsibility. And I think you've got to embrace it fully and understand the importance of the impact that you're making out there. But you've got to drive change. And I think that's been the hardest thing going through all of this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, apart from these 2 years, which is difficult to put aside, which has been so very significant in so many ways in our lives and in our works and every walk of life. But you've been, let's go back a little and separate a little from the reality at the moment. Well, you've been CEO of the company since 2014, since I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
It's 7 years now. Well, how do you feel your role as a CEO and your responsibility has evolved? Has in a way, in any significant way, changed, or the type of work, the type of responsibility, the type of things you did 6 years ago are pretty much the same that you do now? Something has changed or not?
Oh yeah, lots changed. I've looked back on some of my early decks, that I was preparing to some of our management meetings, and I would look at them now and I would say they were pretty average back then, because they were not really that informed, and that's okay. I mean, that's all right. But I think, as 7 years have gone by, I think what I've really learned is that I need more people around me in order to help drive change. And, I think when you come in as a leader, a lot of times you feel like, you've got to be the one. And in order to really drive change, it has to be an organizational shift, not just, a management, demand. And I think early on, I was probably a bit of a, bottleneck on some fronts, because I was trying to understand the company or trying to put my, my mark on the change, etc. But I think over time, we've really changed as an organization. When I arrived here, we had a board of 6 people. They were all men, by the way, and all over a certain age. And that's okay. It was just that wasn't going to really change a company of 11,000 people, at the end, we needed to get much more community-based as an organization. And so, the board is really myself and the CFO. We make the decisions, but we make a much more informed decision, not through a smaller group, but through much larger groups. So, we have our management meetings between 35 to 55 people, that come to those meetings. And we host them 2-3 times a year, and we share speed and scale all of our ideas. And so we make it much more community-based than what it was in the past. And I think the problem is when you get to big is you feel like you need to control more. Actually, when you get to big, you need to open up more. And that's sort of been the lesson that, that I've learned over time, which is to really embrace, people from different disciplines. It's not all like CEOs that come to that meeting. There's obviously different skills that come to that. And then also to make sure that we're making investments. And, I talked about before, the mindset of corporate cost, is just wrong. And, Jean-Marie Drew has talked a lot about, in the past there, about where R&D budgets were previously for companies. And R&D budgets are down about 20% from what they used to be. And how can that be good for growth, right? And then if you think about, if we apply a mentality in our business of corporate costs, it's not corporate costs. It's just a lack of investment in product and innovation. And you have to invest in people that can drive change and drive innovation. Otherwise, how is your product and your experience going to evolve? And so I certainly made some pretty significant investments, either in our cultural unit for Backslash and what we're doing around Next, which is around innovation, what we're doing on design, some of our disciplines in marketing. I've got 2 heads of planning. We've got a head of data. We've got a head of intelligence, built platforms. They're all investments in our future, and we're going to get to our future faster than any of our competitors, because we don't have the same mindset of sort of, that kind of corporate mentality. And so I feel as though that, my learning over that time was, it's not really about me. It's about us. It's going to be a better company if it isn't from me, if it's much more inclusive. And, it's going to be a better company if, we're constantly in a mode which is about share, speed, and scale, and not going through the old models of either geography or in terms of, the old sort of setups of boards and bureaucracy. You got to get to ideas fast, and you got to get them ahead of everybody else. And so how do you create platforms and people that can drive that, who can share that, and then get it to happen, and then enjoy it as well. I mean, part of the reason why we get people together is not just for, just for all those business reasons we talked about. We want to create a lot of affinity in our group. And there are so many amazing people in this group, and they all need to know each other so that they really want to be together. And then they don't call me Manuel. They just go to each other. And that's the whole objective for me, which is to help them help each other really quickly. And so I love the side of it when we all get together. It's like a big hug fest. I mean, you Latins would love that, as do all Australians. But it's good. And I think the vibe is excellent. So creating that sense of community, both in terms of information, but in terms of also just personal affinity, has been really important.
Mm-hmm. And is there something that you're particularly proud of? Any triumph, any achievement that you think it's something special for you? And on the other side, anything that you would like to achieve, a pet goal or something that you're thinking, I would like to do that, to get to that point, to have that success in this particular thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very clear about the thing. It's not like an agency of the year or a Grand Prix or anything like that. I think I'm probably most proud of is the evolution of the leaders in our company. And when I joined, I think like many organizations, it was very male, very, very male. And when you went around, the countries, it was, led by men. And I just didn't believe that we could sort of keep adopting the way we were with sort of 6 members of a board and a very, very male culture. And that's not to say it was just TBWA. There are many like that. But I felt like if we were going to be truly disruptive, that we couldn't just look through one lens, and that we needed to really make sure that we were getting diversity and balance in our system. So the thing I'm most proud of is the fact that we've got many great female leaders now driving our agencies, and female leadership is up nearly 20% from what it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So and then it's not token. Which is the thing that I really hate about this industry, that it would try to get a headline on a small statistic, like on a small base. And, the people like running London, running China, running Melbourne, running New Zealand, running New York, running LA, running Media Arts Lab, running Toronto, running Brazil, Malaysia, Turkey. These are all female leaders now. Spain. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. No, really has been.
With Claudia.
It's been notorious, really, that so many women in positions of responsibility and leadership within the company in the last year. So it's been quite significant, really.
Yeah, but it's been overdue, and I think you look at those companies, and what Joe's done in Greater China, what we've achieved in Melbourne, what we've done in LA, New York. I mean, it's like, and on and on and on. I mean, it's amazing to see the success they had. And they didn't do it because they're women. They did it because they're great leaders that were given an opportunity, and because we've got a much more balanced perspective in our company, and it was able to attract talent and to keep talent. And so that's the thing I'm most proud of, I think, is getting to a company that reflects the world we live in, a company that I think is inspiring to all. And we've got work to do there. Don't be confused about that. We still got work in other areas. We've done a much better job creatively. We're up 60% in our creative leadership there. But there's still work to do there. That was off a smaller base, and I still want to have success on that front of getting more female creative leaders out there, and data as well. That's an area for growth on that front. So, and then just diversity in general, reflecting the populations of the cities and countries that we live in. So, we're making progress there, but there's a lot to do. And so, I'm going to be most satisfied when I can truly say that we've really achieved a much more diverse and equitable organization. Like, that'll be the thing, and that I hand over to someone that I think then represents, the future of our company, and, that I do it in a fashion where I'm not hanging on for too long, that I'm handing off at the right time with the person who's got the right energy to take it on, to the next chapter. And so I believe, we're on a good path on that front. So I think it's good. And then in terms of what do I want to achieve? I want to achieve a body of work that is the envy of everyone. And I still want to keep Apple. I still want to keep Nissan. I want to keep McDonald's. I want to keep Pepsi. All the ones that we've had forever. These are the things that I cherish. Singapore Airlines, Standard Charter, they're the ones that it's not to say I don't love the new clients that we've obviously got. Of course I do. But, I love the fact that we've had these relationships and that we continue to do fantastic work for them. But I want to have a body of work that is the envy of everyone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a good goal. Just to have the good work.
Yeah.
Well, you have mentioned Apple, which is of course one of the most iconic and famous brands of the world, the most valuable too. And it's been a client of TBWA for a very, very long time. I would like you, I'm sure people would be curious to know about how's your relationship with them? How do you work with them? What kind of client they are, and how it comes that the work is always so outstanding? What's the secret there? How things go on with them?
Yeah. Well, we keep a pretty tight, airtight case on how it works with Apple, because obviously we've got a lot of secrets that we must maintain there. But
yes, of course.
But in terms of you could certainly, if you look at Troy, who is absolutely one of my favorite clients that I've ever worked with. He's been an amazing partner to us, the CMO of Apple. He gave a great presentation at Cannes on our relationship and what drives Apple. I think a couple of things. One is there is a standard that you just have to understand is the highest standard in the world, and either you're intimidated by that or you're motivated by it. And I think what we've been able to do there is to really embrace. Like, we love being on the pointy end of it. I mean, we really do. We understand how much pressure we're under and what we must deliver and the standard we must get to. And I always want to be in that place. I always want to be Real Madrid or Barcelona. I want to be at that level. I want to be at the very, very top and to feel the responsibility that we must deliver that level of performance. And so, for us, the standard drives the next standard. It just does. And there is honesty in our relationship. So, Tor and I will talk and it'll be like, I think we need to change this. This is not happening. What should we do here? Have you got any thoughts on this? And we just talk very, very openly about what we need to do in order to get to that next level. And then we drive change really quickly. And I think that's the thing. It's a very transparent relationship, and one where we're very action oriented and we drive that change and we make it happen. The other part is that we're not afraid to evolve, in terms of the talent that's leading it. And, we've got some fantastic leaders that have been driving that business. We bring in new leaders, all the time with new skills, new capabilities. And I do think that it's good to fresh the team up. It is. Sometimes, you need to be able to do that in order to get to that next level of performance. And, I think everyone always says, if they come off the business, we'll lose that business. We have this fear that you can't change people, and actually change can actually get you to a better place. And so, it's in the absence of having a better solution. And so I think we've had very, very good people that have come in, refreshing that team, brought a lot of innovation. And we embrace the responsibility of the fact that we're driving the world's most valuable and admired brand. Like, that's an amazing place to be. And it's a standard, and it's a standard that we understand, we take to heart, and we also hold it to ourselves. Like, that should be and always should be the best work happening in the world. And I think there are a lot of those cases there where that work does stand up to be that. And there are cases when that work is good. And, we have that honesty about that, which is to say, that's not at the next level, let's go again. And 30 plus years, I think our relationship's probably as good as it's ever been, which is great. We've got amazing partners in Tor and Chris and the team there. And, we've got a lot more responsibility that we do with them. We launch more services and products, etc. And we absolutely love them. We absolutely do. I think we've got amazing relationships with our clients. With Nissan, we've had 30 plus years. We've got incredible longevity and future going with them as well in terms of where we are with that business. McDonald's, we've got a great relationship with Morgan and Chris Kay, obviously the CEO there at McDonald's. We're going to go see them next week, and that's great. Adidas with Vicky and Gatorade. I mean, it's just, we really lean into it, and we really love them, and we love the responsibility of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure that if Apple is such a very, very good brand and powerful and iconic, and TBWA has part of the responsibility to have and the merit to the work that the agency has done has put the brand in the place that it has now too.
Yeah.
The contribution has been significant.
Yeah, it has. But I mean, for being very honest, like our client has an amazing amount of equality in this relationship in terms of our creative development. And we do that together. And no great work gets there without a great client. It doesn't. It happens. Yes, it does by chance, occasionally. But it really needs to happen together. And I think what I would say to the clients and to others right now is that I think right now you have to be honest about where work is at right now. It's good. And to get to the next level, to get to great and iconic, it needs both of us to get that work there. It needs a bit more bravery. It needs more honesty from the client. It needs more push. It needs a little bit more room and trust, with the agencies. And so you have to be honest about where the work is at. Don't convince yourself that this is good because it won't get me fired. This is good because it's not going to upset anyone. This is good because I can justify best right there. It's going to be great if you really think it's going to change the future of your business. And that's got to be the standard that we look at, which is what is going to shape my business and how is it going to drive this, and have some honesty about that. Because I think a lot of work is forgettable right now, a lot of it. And let's be honest, it's more challenging to get to work. So if you think you're going to get there with what we've been doing, you're fooling yourself. And I don't think Apple is confused about that. It knows that it's a premium, and in order to get people's attention, which is even another level of premium, then you've got to actually really, be a little bit more brave. And I would say it's not being just bold for bold's sake, but you have to be honest about the quality of the work and whether or not it really is breaking through.
Okay. Well, you've made a passing mention earlier in the conversation about the metaverse, which is the flavor of the month or the flavor of the quarter or whatever. Well, what's your take on it? Are you curious about it? Do you think it's a fad? How do you see it? Are you expecting what is happening? How do you analyze it?
Yeah, I mean, people better start experimenting with it because it is going to become our lives, right? It is. And people think, things like NFTs are, sort of novelties and tactics and whatever else. Well, some of them are selling for $46 million and whatever else right now. So you have to start to learn this, and you have to start to lean into it. And I think we've seen some, the likes of Adidas and Nike are very much going into that world and taking each other on there and whatnot. So it is going to become real. I think the problem for us is, as mature clients and agency leaders, is that a lot of us have not spent time in that world and are intimidated by it, if we're being honest. A lot of people just simply won't lean into it and try to learn it and understand it. And you have to really make sure that you're bringing people into your company that can really help educate you, and that we do educate our clients and we train our people on that front. And we've got some amazing programs under DCEL that do that here in this company. But, it's honestly a case of, if you look at gaming really and agencies and saying, okay, well, what have you really achieved in gaming? And what have you done there? Now, you can't tell me that gaming is not a sizable part of the world's population in terms of their interest levels. And obviously we've seen more brands in the last couple of years do a better job inside of that world. But we've been ignoring gaming, in many instances for a very long time. And as an industry and as clients and as everyone. And that's what's going to happen in metaverse and the like. If we don't start leaning into that now, you have to be there and you have to learn it, because that is the behavior coming forward. And you cannot ignore that just because you don't identify with it. So we're excited by it. We've got a platform called Next that we do a lot of work with our clients. We've identified 25 shifts that we see that are coming across the marketing technology platform. I think design is going to be a huge component going forward. We've got an area around inclusive design that we think is really critical for brands. Obviously, sustainability is going to be big too, in terms of where clients are going to be, looking for agencies that are partners that can help them navigate that, as well as actually be sustainable themselves. So I think, obviously the digital ecosystem, design, sustainability, they're going to be some big themes going forward.
Okay. Well, just two more questions, Troy. I don't know what to take much more of your time. Well, there has been much talk almost from the beginning of the pandemic about the changes that the situation is bringing on to the societies, to the way we work, the way we communicate with others, the way we behave, the way we feel even. How do you feel about this? I mean, personally, do you think that was going to bring changes that were going to be permanent and that we were going to be different from pre-COVID? Personally, how do you feel about it? Do you feel you're a different person in a way that you something within you has changed? Do you see things differently or certain things differently?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think the world is becoming more passionate about things good and bad, and I think the world is getting more divided, and I think it's going to take many leaders and groups of people to bring better humanity back, to bring decency back, and to look after the planet much better than what it has been. And I think there are many people who are trying to divide us, who are trying to separate us. I think that I'm a great believer, obviously, in freedom of speech, but I don't think freedom to hate is a good thing. And I think there's too much of that going on in the world. And I think brands have a place in helping act as responsible agents to the world and to the population about what we believe is right. That's why I do love some of the work that we've done on Apple on that front. If you look at what we've done around Earth Day and what we do around sort of inclusivity. And so I think brands have a really important part in doing that, because I'm definitely worried about it. I have 4 children. On one level, this pandemic's been great because I've been a more present father than I have been, and probably achieved more balance in my life than what I had done previously. But at the same time, I'm concerned for them because, they're growing in a world which seems to have more depressed people, have people with more hate out there, and a world that seems to not care as much that it should do about the state of this planet. And so I think, our responsibility as an organization is to make sure that we can really make sure we're more inclusive and get our brands to see the responsibility of that, to be more sustainable, and to actually be a little bit more optimistic about, and try to drive people to understand about the good in the world. And there are a lot of people doing many, many great things. And I think the world needs to hear more about that. So, yeah, I'm on one level, I'm concerned. I think when you're a parent of young, teenagers, and you look at what's ahead, you may be a little bit more sensitive than most. But I think we do have to take this seriously. I think, it's particularly around sustainability. The planet's a mess. Let's be honest. So, we've got to be acting much quicker than what we are right now. So, let's see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's hope. Let's be hopeful. Let's be hopeful about it.
I believe in the world. I do. I believe it can innovate its way out.
Okay. Just to finish, Troy. Well, there's a question we put to all our interviewees at the end of the conversation, and it's to ask for a recommendation, for a reading recommendation or a viewing recommendation, if you want to film or a book or whatever, something that you like to share with people, not necessarily to be something professional, something personal, something that you like, that you have recently that you think is worthwhile.
Okay. I did see that may be something that would come up there as a question. And so I did think about films, and I did think about actually recommending one about Jean-Marie Drew that he had written called Ways to the New, which is around innovation and the importance of that, because I think we need that as an industry. I think we need that for our clients' business. I think we need that for the planet. I think we need that, on many fronts. So certainly from a book standpoint, Jean-Marie Drew, Ways to the New, I think is very good. But on a different level, I watched a documentary on Disney Plus called The Rescue. And it's about, in Thailand, about 13 boys from a soccer team that were caught in a cave with their coach. And they were caught underneath in these flooded caves for a number of days. And the way in which the world came together to save them. And, you know, as I sort of said, you know, I'm being Australian and being, you know, from this company, I'm you know, certainly much more of a sunrise and a more optimistic human being and whatnot. But, you know, never give up is a really an important ingredient that I do believe we can, you know, we can certainly find ingenuity to find ways to do miraculous things. But you also need a group of people, you know, to be able to achieve that. They don't all come from the background that you think. And, you know, they can be quite varied in their character and the misfits can do amazing things out there in the world. And then you need belief. And I, you know, I think if, you know, people, you know, over time, people sort of said to me, like, what is your job? Like, you know, when I'm talking to, you know, people not from this industry or whatever else, and even people inside of it and my mother or whoever else. And I'm like, what is your actual job? And I do believe that my job is about creating belief. I mean, that's what I think my job ultimately is that, you know, making people believe they can do amazing things and that we can do this and we can do that. And I think that film, that documentary really spoke to me. And it's an amazing story. It ends well. So there, I will leave you with something good there on that front. Yeah. And but it's how they went about it, which is a lesson for all of us. And not to think that certain people who look a certain way or do a certain thing in a different way, that can't help us. And I think that that's really important. Ingenuity comes in all shapes and sizes. And I think look for that in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much, Troy, for the recommendation, for your time, and for your answers. It's been a pleasure, really.
Oh, great. Well, I'd love to meet you too. I can't wait to come back to Madrid.
And to meet again. I hope that you come, and it will be a real pleasure to meet you again. Indeed. Yeah. Thanks a million. Have a nice day.
Yeah, all the best to you. All right. Thank you very much.